Welcome to DCPC Live Presents Scene Support, the podcast that highlights the unsung heroes of the music scene. Recording engineers, show promoters, labels, graphics artists, photographers, zine writers, sound people, and more. I'm your host, Scott Pash, owner and operator of DCPC Live, a DIY record label documenting live hardcore punk, ska, and metal shows on short-run vinyl with 30 years of experience playing in hardcore bands across DC, Florida, and New York, as well as booking and promoting shows. I've had the privilege of working with amazing talent in the scene. My guest is Chad Chastain, the force behind Lakeland Punk Rock Flea Market, an event that brings together artists, vinyl collectors, zine makers, DIY vendors, and the scene. Organizers, vendors, and fans are just as vital as the bands themselves. And I don't think I'm ever going to use a teleprompter ever again.
That was rough, man. Good job.
Holy hell, that was fast. And I thought I already did it fast anyway. And I was like, okay, that was really fast.
You're running off fumes there at the end.
I was like, okay, they're not giving me any pause and a break. And I'm sure there's a setting in there for how fast I want it to go.
Yeah.
And that was not as fast as I wanted it to go.
Oh, well, we did
Lesson learned. So, buddy, thank you so much for coming on. It's so great to see you. So, obviously you play in a band, but we're not going to talk about that at all. We're going to focus on what you're doing here because I'm trying to do something similar. So this is a double whammy call for me, where I not only get to highlight the great work you're doing, but also pick your brain so I can learn how to do something like that up here in the Kingston, New York area. So tell me a little bit about Lakeland Punk Rock Flea Market. How long has it been going on? I feel like it's going on at least 5 years, maybe more.
Yeah, 2019. It says it really small up here. 2019.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, somewhere up there. Started at I think in September of 2019. It could have been in March. I'm not sure. COVID kind of threw off my
I was going to
mental.
say COVID had to fuck that up a little bit.
Yeah, but going on a little bit around 5 years. This March 30th will be the 20th punk rock flea market that I've thrown. The 10th one in Lakeland.
20th punk rock flea market. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you a businessman in general? Is that your day job? Are you just this sort of business skill set? Or is this something you said on the side, I'm just going to fucking do this?
No. Well, like you, man, I've been booking shows since I was 15, 16. Yeah. I've worked in recording studios. I've ran venues. I've been every member of every kind of band you can be in. So I've been doing concerts or events since 1997.
Okay.
But I am not a business guy. I never wanted to be my own boss. I've always just wanted to be a cog in a machine that just takes a paycheck and goes home. So, I don't want to be a businessman. In fact, my wife made me make this legal. So it is an LLC, which I preferred it being under the table because it was just a little bit, I don't know, more comfortable in my head. But
nope, I understand. I actually was told to do the exact same thing by my wife last year.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. Yeah. It is a business, but I don't function as a business.
Okay. So 20 years ago you started it, and now you're here in Lakeland. Let's I guess we'll just focus on Lakeland for right now. So what made you start the one in Lakeland? Was there an impetus to it? Did you see a gap? Well, was there a need?
I didn't start it 20 years ago. So I just started booking shows 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the punk rock flea market for me started in 2019. I had first heard about them online from I think Trenton, New Jersey is the first one.
Have a big one there.
Yeah, so there's this huge, and so I heard about what it was, and I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. I feel like I could take my experiences of running shows and combine that with my experiences. Like my wife has been running art festivals for 10, 15 years, or actually more than that. So she's been helping run and then also running her own. So that forcibly makes me have to help run it with her. So I took my knowledge from that and then the shows and just kind of merged the two. And I have major OCD and super people pleasing problems. So I want everyone to like me and I want everyone to be happy. And so maybe combine that with it, that I do a pretty good job of making everyone have a good time at the event.
I mean, I played it there with my band.
Yeah.
And I had a blast. And my family came out and it was quite a joy. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I miss having that sort of experience since I moved up here because you have yours and then there's one out on the East Coast, PRFM flea market, something like that.
Yeah.
I did that one as well. So
yeah, there's Fort Pierce.
Yeah, Fort Pierce.
Yeah, and that's my buddy.
And the Trenton one is just really expensive and hard to get into.
Yeah.
And you did it so well. I did this one in Easton, Pennsylvania that was mall punks. And I rolled in there and I was like, oh, it's right down the street from my mom's house. I'll go visit her, bring my kid. It'll be a good time. And I got Premiere set up right next to the record store, right next to the stage where the bands were playing. And then I looked around. I was like, oh, they're selling candles and tissue box koozies. And I'm like, where's the punk rock in this punk rock?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't see any of that. I was like, but the benefit was I was the only punk rock thing there. So I made hundreds and hundreds of dollars because people came out and was like, you really are it. Like I was at the entrance, and I was like, just you're gonna walk around, and if you want anything punk rock, you got to come back to me because that's it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's true. Like I don't ever want to be considered similar to like indie flea or any of those kind of like hipstery flea markets events. So I definitely have punk rock as part of what I do. But there are some candle vendors. Now I find the punk rock ones, or I find
Yes.
the counterculture edgy ones.
And I don't mean to but I'm talking like these are things like, oh, my mom should be here right
Yeah,
now. My mom is like in her late 70s, early 80s, and like she should be here right now, walking around, enjoying this, and going, "Oh, isn't that a nice doily?"
yeah,
Right?
yeah. But I think that's part of it too. Like, I mean, we're older, so I'm 44. I've got
Yep.
two kids that are teenagers. I've got a wife that's not punk rock. You know, she likes some punk stuff. I've got a mom and a grandma, or mother-in-law that are not punk rock, but they've all come and they have a good time. So I try to keep in mind like every punk rock guy has a wife and kids, or girl has a boyfriend that's not into punk rock. So I want to make the event somewhat enjoyable for everyone involved, not just
And you
the
did
punk
because
guy.
my kids have no interest in punk rock,
Yeah.
none whatsoever. They don't want to come to my shows. They don't want to listen to my bands.
Yeah.
They can't name the bands I like, even though all I do is wear punk rock T-shirts
Yeah.
and yada yada. And I have posters all over my record room, but they still can't name a band I like.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, but they went to your thing and they had a great time. So so you're doing your first one. Tell me like the story of the first one, the goods, the bad, and the ugly. Like how did this first one come about?
Well, I was nervous because, well, first off, I'm a weird punk guy. I guess I fall in the minor threat world. I don't drink alcohol. So my whole punk rock ethos is associated with everything Minor Threat and Fugazi ever instilled in me. So it's do it as cheaply as possible, make it affordable for kids and adults. And I
I'm every part of that except I drink beer.
yeah. And I don't have a problem with that, but I just
Yeah.
never did. So my first step was like, I know that if you do, I've been doing shows at all age venues for years and just watch those venues shut down left and right because they don't have that business to support them. And alcohol is that, it's necessary. And if you're throwing a party, which is what we're doing here, you need
Yeah.
something that people are going to stay and enjoy themselves with. So I had to find a location. I mean, like, what did they say? The rule is location, location, location. So
It is.
we have this awesome brewery in downtown Lakeland, right on the lake, that the owner is just kind of open-minded, and he was cool with letting me take a gamble because he knew, like, dude, I'm not making any money from this. I'm just doing this for free, but potentially you could make money on this.
Sure, you're advertising his business.
Yeah.
People are going to come in and buy his beers. Some reason they might come back another day and buy more beers.
Oh, yeah.
Get beer to go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when I do shows at the venue, I do shows out here in Kingston. I'm like, what's the negative for you? I book all the bands. I hire the sound guy. I hire the door person.
Exactly.
I do the physical promotion, the social media promotion. And on a Sunday where you have nobody, normally between 5 o'clock and 9, I bring in 100 people.
Yeah. Exact same.
What's your downside?
Exact same. When I approached, his name's Dan at Swan Brewing. When I approached him, I was just like, hey, what's a non-busy day? And he pulled his laptop out right there and went, September, end of September is pretty dead.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, on what day of the week? And he's like, Sundays always suck. And I was like, how about I do it then? And it just happens to be that Sundays are awesome because all of the neighboring businesses are closed. So that means free parking.
Super rad.
Yeah, so there's not other events happening. So you're not really competing with other anything. So it just happened to work out perfect for me and for him. But that's how he bought into it. Was it's not a loss for him if the event fails.
So how many vendors did you have? Because when I went to your one and I played it, you had vendors up and down the street.
Yeah.
You had easily, like, I would say 6 to 8 bands playing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot happening. So, did you go that big the first time, or did you, like, start off slow and go, I'll do, like, 3 bands and 20 vendors and keep it small?
That's exactly what it was. It was 3 bands and I think 24 vendors. And he happened to already have a food truck booked for that day. So I was like, cool, that covers food. But that was it. 3 bands and 24 vendors.
Okay. And did you have to block off the streets then? Because he had a pretty big area back then. So, like, the blocking out the streets had to come later.
That didn't happen until the 3rd one.
Okay.
Initially, it was just in his square footage. And then we expanded to take over his parking lot. So he had no parking that day. And that was a big gamble for him. But after that paid off, he was like, fuck it, let's rent out the road. So, yeah.
And was that difficult to run out the road? Like getting the permits, to get anything shut down? Was the city like, did they fight you at all?
The city is, well, I live in Polk County, Florida. So the city is very good old boy, very conservative, which fuck that. But they love what I do. So
Okay.
they love that we do this event that benefits the downtown area. So they've been very open to it in every step of the way. But it's a pretty simple process to rent out the road. If you're
Okay.
trying to rent out a main road, that's
Whole other matter.
impossible. Yeah, but I'm renting out like a side non-main road. So it only costs like $35 to rent out that road.
Okay.
So basically nothing.
All right. So like, how many people do you have show up? Because like I went there was a lot, and I think I used the bathroom in the brewery.
Yeah.
But do you have enough people coming in that you have to like rent additional porta johns so people aren't waiting in like a line for 30 minutes to use the potty?
Yeah, and it's funny because we rent the porta potties just out of sheer potential of need, but realistically, it's hot as shit every time we do it. So no one wants to use the porta potty. So the women's bathroom forms like a 30-person line. So
Oh,
me
Jesus.
or one of my guys will walk up and just shut down the men's bathroom and say, for right now, it's 2 women's bathrooms, and you guys have to wait. And that way we
I
can.
love that.
Yeah, so we'll kind of let the ladies, do what they got to
You
do.
do like to please people, but no, that's really rad, dude. Hats off to you. That's fucking great. I love that.
Yeah, so we still have the porta potties, but I mean, no one uses them. I guess
Yeah.
if you really, really have to, they're available. The first time we did it was, I don't know, I expected maybe 200 people to show up. I think we had close to like 900 people the very first time. So
Holy hell.
it was way bigger than I expected. And then, of course, after that, it's just blown up. Last time we had just under 4,000 people throughout the day.
That is amazing. Okay, now it's free, right? I mean, you just walk in, which I'm all about as well, like maintaining equity, making sure everybody can come. So, where are you getting the funds for this? Because the venue only has so much.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in rentals for the vendors? Like I've done flea markets and events and do festivals, and I've often paid to have a vending table.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, knowing you don't want to charge too much because you don't want to be shutting down a new business that's just getting off that wants to come out there and try something. You want to make sure everyone can get there. Like, how do you handle that? Like, what? Yeah, explain.
Yeah, so every dollar that comes through my hands is a vendor fee. That's the only place I make any money from. And it started out where I was charging, I think, $30 for a table, and then that increased a bit because I wanted to spend more on promotion. And then that increased a bit because now I have to hire police officers. And then that increased a bit because now I got to get porta potties. And then now I'm an LLC, or I have been for 2 years. So I've got to get event insurance and then all the state filings with that. So like my costs keep going up.
Sure.
But
Do you still like tiered levels then, like smaller areas versus bigger areas?
no, it's a 10 by 10 booth space is usually about $100, somewhere around there. Sometimes it's like 110, 120, depending
Okay.
on what outstanding expenses I have. And then a food truck might be a little bit more because they take up like 3 booth spaces. But yeah, I mean, I hate that we have to charge that much for a booth, but every vendor that's ever vended with me is like, they would pay that and more to be a part of the event because of what we do.
Sure. And just as someone who is a vendor at festivals,
Yeah.
$100 is low.
Yeah. And I know that.
Right.
Yeah, my buddy
It's
did.
very rare that I paid less than $100 to vend anywhere.
Yeah, my buddy did the NoFX Farewell show down here in Orlando, and it was, I think the booth for that one day event was $770, and he had to purchase additional insurance on top of that, and he had to hire a guy to help him that whole day. So yeah, he's $1,000 in the hole.
I didn't have to do any of that, but I usually have to supply my own like pop-up tent,
Mm-hmm.
my own table.
Yeah.
Sometimes power's not there, so if I want to like have people be able to like listen to records on a record player, I need to have my own power source, which I don't worry about because the generator would be too loud for that. But like it's usually like you have the space, and nothing else is provided.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we have to do. I think there's like 2 or 3 spots where we can offer electricity, but usually I don't say that. I'm just because as soon as I tell that person, then the person next to him is jealous.
Sure, no, absolutely, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And did they get any like, oh, you get 2 free beers out of this or anything like that as well?
If I had that possibility, I get the band's beers. So they get free beers. But no, for all the vendors, I buy, I don't know, like 10 cases of water, and I buy like $200 worth of snacks. And me and my kids are walking around the event all day long, just handing out free waters and free snacks for all the vendors. So they are getting, fed. And of course, we're walking around offering to like watch their booth if they need to go to the bathroom or anything like that. But
okay, so like you mentioned, you and your kids, like you're talking now. How many vendors do you have at this point?
kids?
No, how many vendors?
Oh, okay. So now I will have 77, I believe.
Okay. So you and your two kids do not seem like you have the bandwidth to walk around and do all that. So do you have a hired staff or a volunteer staff?
Yeah.
You know, like, cause like, and I'm like, and volunteers, like, I was like, how does that work? Because people that volunteer at like the Fast or volunteer at Camp Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
they volunteer for some level of free admission or
hmm
free stay or something like that. But your thing's already free.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that?
So from those vendor fees that I'm collecting, I am paying a few staff people. So my kids get a little bit of money, and they love that.
Okay.
My band. So I know we're not talking about my band, but I'm in a band.
You can mention it. It's
Yeah.
okay. Go ahead.
We're called the Kutoffs. Scott's put our record out.
It's a great record.
Yeah, but so my singer runs the stage. My bass player is kind of like my number two guy, so he helps me do everything. And then their girlfriends also help out. And I mean, I'm paying everyone as much as I comfortably can.
Sure.
But that's all coming from the vendor fees. They get a free event T-shirt. We have live screen printing usually at all of the events.
Yes, I saw that last
Yeah.
time I was there. That was
Yeah,
pretty rad.
so I take care of my people.
How do you find all these vendors? I mean, I'm assuming you had to start off in the beginning finding them.
Yeah.
But now I also imagine, kind of like me, when I started doing shows here in Kingston, I had to find bands, but now I'm having bands email me all the time asking to be on my once-a-month shows.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can only have so many bands.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy going to flea markets and events. So I'm already going like every other weekend to some kind of event, just, on my own. But usually you'll go to some kind of event and there will be one weirdo vendor that stands out. And they're usually our kind of people. So like if they don't fit in there, they definitely fit in over here. And I'm not limiting it to just punk rock. So I'm looking at, are they counterculture? Are they edgy?
Sure.
Are they, LGBT accepting? That's a big thing for me.
I agree.
All that kind of stuff. So if they're weird at other markets, they're perfect for me.
Yeah, we have a couple places up here. If I did one like they do oddities and obscurity shops and
Yeah.
things of that nature, those would be 100% exactly. That's not punk rock, but that's within that counterculture framework that you talked about.
Yeah.
Punk adjacent.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely fabulous. So, okay, so do they apply? Like, how do you manage the whole process? I mean, that's 70 people. Let's assume you have double that apply. Who is sitting down looking at each one of these and deciding who gets to come? And you like, we can only have so many legacy people.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we have new people in. Because you want to do this, once or twice a year?
No, in Lakeland, I do it twice a year, but I also have,
Twice a year, right?
I do it twice a year in Bradenton. I have done St. Pete a couple times. I used to do a Christmas one, and now I'm also talking about doing a Sanford one as well. So usually 5 to 6 times a year.
All right, so how do you, you have a job. You are married with 2 kids, as am I.
Yeah.
So I get this.
Yeah.
You're doing 6 punk rock flea markets potentially a year.
Yeah.
Right? Did I get that number right?
5 or 6, yep.
5 or 6 with, let's say, just 200 vendor applications. And you have how many bands now? Like a dozen bands, every one?
Every one of them is pretty much 6 bands. I think in Lakeland now we're trying to squeeze 8 into this next one.
Okay.
So it's
like 6 bands. I book 6 band bills.
Yeah.
That takes
time. That's all day, yeah.
Okay. How? Like, how?
Well, I don't do, so if you're talking to any other person that throws markets, they do applications. I don't. So I treat this more like I'm booking a band. So I have an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, I have an Excel spreadsheet with all the vendors, and that list right now is over 500 names.
Okay.
Of vendors. My band list, I want to say, is like 200.
I also have a band spreadsheet with about 2,000 bands on it, and like venues and promoters that I've been keeping for years. That allows me to help bands book tours and find bands to come through. So I'm glad we are on the same OCD, keeping track of everything.
Oh, I love my Excel spreadsheets. But that's kind of where it starts, is I have that list, and I have my legacy people, which I'd be happy to name some if you wanted to. But there are vendors.
Yeah, name drop those people.
Yeah, there are some vendors like Felanius, who does T-shirts that are in the cat theme. So they're very just weird cat T-shirts. A DOA, which is in the horror theme. There's Dark Cycle. They do weird animals on bicycles.
Right.
There's a bunch of records. So there's people like that kind of like, they're my buds. Like we would hang out if we weren't doing markets. They're going to kind of get, I guess I don't want to put it out there, but whatever. They're pretty much going to get an invite every single time just because of who they are. I trust them. Yeah, I trust them.
Relationships do matter.
Yeah, yeah. So when I'm booking a band, I'm kind of starting with like, okay, who is the big support? What local area regional band is going to be my staple band for this show, and then I'll build around that.
Sure.
So that's kind of how the market starts, was like, well, I need a strong T-shirt vendor. I need a strong record vendor. I need someone that's doing oddities or weird stuff. I need a jewelry vendor. And then I kind of build out from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You try and make sure you have a diversity of stuff going on. And,
Yeah.
I mean, so like how far away do you have bands travel? Do you stick within Florida when you're booking bands, or do you even go outside of that?
For the most part, I've always stuck to just Florida only. But
Yeah.
this next one in Lakeland, I've got a band coming down from Atlanta. So
Okay. What
I'll have
band?
my first out-of-state band for a punk flea. What band?
Yeah.
Forsaken Prophets.
Fucking I love those guys. I was
Yeah.
like, I can think of 3 bands that I know of in Atlanta. There's Billy Bats and the Made Men.
Oh, yeah. We just played
Gas
with them.
Station Boner Pills.
Yeah.
And Forsaken Prophets.
Yeah. So the Forsaken Prophets guys messaged me about a year ago. I actually found them through Skatopia, a documentary about skateboarding. And so that's where I first discovered them. And then they messaged me like a month later. I'm like, hey, we want to do this thing. I'm like, really? You want to drive down to Atlanta from Atlanta to here?
Yep.
Okay.
Only did used to play with them a bunch back in the day.
Yeah. They're cool.
How about your vendors? Like, do you ever have a vendor like, I will drive 8 hours for a good flea market to like do a vending at. I get up leave the night before, get a hotel and so I can be there in the morning the next day or whatever to do it. How far do vendors travel?
They drive further.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've got one vendor that comes down from Savannah almost every time. I've got North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia. There's a Texas one. Yeah, they're willing to drive because for them, like I said, they're a weirdo in a normal market, but in my market, they're accepted. So they're way more happy to drive out of their way to come down and do one.
And that makes sense to me. Like, I'm on level. I was like, all right, I could get down there. I think it's 17 hours for me to do it.
Yeah.
Now I would just have to drive all day one day, for like 12 or 14 hours and then get up the next day and do it. I could just book a plane flight. I get JetBlue points. I'll fly down. But I was like, I want to do a suitcase full of records.
Yeah.
How heavy that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And dangerous. You're going to damage everything.
Yeah. So
or is your bag going to make it with you?
Yeah, records are that tricky thing. Mm-hmm. I see people doing the vending at the fest, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well we shipped these records out here last year, and we just keep the same records and use them year over year, and then bring a couple extras. But we have friends that are here in Florida that store them for us and then bring them out to the thing." It's like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. If you know you're going to do it every year, you ship it down once.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Have that supply.
Yeah.
And then you come every year and you do it again and you just bring some of your newer records that have come out in the last year.
Yeah. I feel guilty when someone from that far away wants to come do one of my events because I don't know. I don't want to disappoint them. I want them to have good days, but for the most part, everyone has one of their best days.
And that's basically all I ask. I mean, I just ask to sell anything.
Yeah.
It's I'm just excited. I can generally sell a couple things at a show, but I'm not very good at standing by my my records at a show. So flea markets or even festivals like last year at Camp Pennsylvania, I tended to leave to go see one band because I couldn't find anyone that wanted a free ticket to come help me.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that happened. It's weird. You think you could find someone.
I know.
Anyway, I would leave a sign that said, "Hey, I'm watching a band. We're going to the bathroom. If you want to buy something, here's my Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App." Just put it in the comments. And I'd be sitting there watching me. I was like, "Oh, look at that! Someone just bought a Fensick album.
Nice. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I feel like that only exists in the punk world too.
Absolutely, look at the punk world.
If you were at a Metallica show and the merch guy walked away to go to the bathroom, people are stealing all that stuff.
Oh, I 100% agree. 100%.
Yeah.
I think in all the years of me walking away from merch tables, I can think of one time someone stole a hat or a beanie when one of my bands was on tour and someone came and told me. I was like, okay. You're not upset? I was like, they like our band so much that I had to take the chance of stealing something and getting caught.
Yeah.
And then they're going to wear it. And maybe they're going to tell the story how they loved us so much they had to steal it.
Yeah.
In which case, great. Go ahead and tell that story.
Yeah. I've never had anything stolen. I'm always worried about leaving the merch bin, with the cash and stuff. But yeah, it's just, you can trust a punk guy for some reason. I don't see why, but
it's just innate, right? And I'm like, if they really needed to steal a singular record, I would just let it go. As long as I don't grab my entire boxes, and run off with 50 records,
yeah.
But they're heavy. It's really heavy, and I have 3 giant heavy boxes. I'm and I have the hand. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
It's not. Yeah, you're not going to run fast with that.
Yeah, I regret having so much band merch. It's so much to carry around. Because I'm the drummer, so I got to carry all the drums, and now we got stupid amount of merch.
Oh, I know. As a drummer, I get it.
Yeah.
We backlined last night, and I was like, I can bring my drums if I have to, but I already have to bring the 3 merch tables,
Yeah.
all of my own merch, all the stuff for like working the door, yada yada yada. I'm like, I would rather not have to also carry in my drums that I'm not playing.
Yeah.
Like if I was playing them, at least that'd be like one thing. But I'm like, I'm not even gonna be playing them.
Yeah.
And I know I'm gonna be the person left breaking them down at the end of the night. Because everyone will help you carry them in, but no one helps you break it down and carry it out.
Yeah. And they're certainly gonna like lose a screw or a stand.
Oh yeah.
Or the top of the hi-hat.
Cymbals sound better without the screw on top. I was like, I get it, but then you got to put it back.
Yeah, I 100% disagree with that statement too. I want the little wing nuts on top of my stands.
I do too. But I also hit like really hard, and I think they're falling off, and I just think no. But yeah, I've had people do this, like they take them off, and I'm watching them, and then they're like putting it on the guitar head.
Yeah, it just rumble off.
I'm just watching. I'm like, fine, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's another thing that we do at the Punk Flea is we backline the whole stage. So that is my drum kit and usually my stands and cymbals too. That's my bass cab.
Your cymbals out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of don't mind because it's like the merch thing. Like nothing's ever been stolen. I mean, like knock on wood.
I don't think anyone steals. Like, there's always that potential for breaking, but and I don't have a problem like lending cymbals because if it broke when they hit it, it wasn't gonna break it would have broke when I hit it the next show I played anyway.
Yeah, I'm a really hard hitter too. So
I was like, I don't think anything they're gonna do is gonna be worse than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So if it happens to break, it's just happened to be that last.
I remember watching you at the Punk Rock Flea Market, and it's funny because you're in the video for the promo that I just released yesterday, and you're hitting the shit out of the cymbals. And there's a point, I don't think it made it in the video, but there's a point where you're hitting it and the cymbal swings up this way and you just chop it. Just, like edge of your cymbal, stick. And I'm like, yeah, I've been there. Scott's a hard hitter.
Yeah. I did a run with my band from up here, and we played Philly and DC, and I left my cymbals in Philly because I trusted the string players to load it properly. Never trust a string player.
Yeah.
Right? And I realized it when we were in Maryland and we stopped at a stop. Like, it just hit me in my head that they were never loaded. Mm-hmm. I went to the back and flipped it up, and I called my buddy Sean, who plays drums in Luxury Teeth that we were going to be playing with. I was like, dude, can I borrow your cymbals? I've known this guy for 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's like, absolutely not. I was like, what? I was like, what? He's like, I'm not feeling dangerous today, Scott. I was like, but dude, I was like, I'll be gentle. He was like, no, you won't. You will not be gentle. And I was like, no, you've seen me in Colin Dead. I'm much more gentle. It's like, yeah, that is more gentle than the overprivileged, but no. I have good cymbals. They're thin. They sound really nice, and you'll destroy them. I was like, I will literally hand you cash from the ATM if I break your cymbal.
Yeah.
Don't make me drive all the way back to Philadelphia. I'm already almost in DC. And he's like, finally agrees. And then we get there, and then Action Park is playing, and the drummer in Action Park is Aaron from Two Man Advantage, who I also know really well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Aaron, Sean's like really concerned about letting me borrow his drums. Can I borrow your cymbals? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. I was like, okay. He's like, nah, they're really nice and thick, and you'll be fine. And I'm playing, and he's standing across from me with Ryder, the drummer from Daycare Swindlers, and I can see them going like this, putting his hand in his face, and like shaking his head as I like literally jump off my stool in the air and come crashing down with the full force of my 220-pound body.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the fuck?
Those are lows.
And I'm like, well, that was me being gentler.
Well, this is what you got to do next time. So, God forbid you ever like lose your cymbals. Actually, finish that story. Did you get your cymbals back yet?
I did.
Good.
I had to meet up Gary from a band called Soji in Philly. Went and picked them up from the venue for me, and then when I was visiting my mom in Pennsylvania, he met me halfway from Philly to Easton and dropped off the cymbals with me because he's just a fucking great guy.
That's awesome.
A Trash Knife t-shirt as well as some like what's his face fucking Dead Milkman.
Oh
shit! Why can't I name the name? It's not Joey Shit. Anyway, some Dead Milkman 7 inches, just because he knows I love the Dead Milkman, even though I can't think of the dude's name right now.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's incredible. So
he's a great guy. Fucking love that dude.
If you do that again, do what I call it a Walmart rental, but you would do it at Guitar Center. Just swing by, buy them, keep their receipt, use them, and then return them. So I used to manage Guitar Center back in the day, and Aaron from Under Oath came in one time, the drummer, and he's a hard hitter. And he came in. We actually sort of became friends at that time, but he used to just pound the shit out of the drums so much to the point to where we would have to like ask him to leave. And this was before they were a big deal. He was just some local guy.
Yeah.
After they had gotten to be a big deal, he came back in the store and he spent like $3,000 buying cymbals because he was recording another band. I think War of Ages, something like that, some metal band. bought $3,000 of cymbals for me, and I got all excited because I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a good commission. And then he returns them the week later. And he's like, yeah, we're not keeping any of this, man. And I was like, all right, I learned a lesson. So yeah,
Nope, I get it. I think I was like 16 or 17, and I was applying to like be applying to be assistant manager at my job, and I went and like bought some clothes at Ross or Marshalls because I didn't have any ties, anything nice. Like, and I was like, all right, this is all the money I have. I was like, if I get the job, I'll keep it. If I don't get the job, I'm just bringing it back. Like a week later, like I said, like I put it on, and as soon as I got home, I took it off, made sure it wasn't stained, hung it up, and I was like, all right, we'll just wait to see what happens.
Yeah, do that. I tell bands to do that. If you're going in the studio, don't bring your gear. Go buy brand new stuff. Buy your dream gear. Go record with it, and then return it. So
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I've debated that too. Like, there's local music stores in my area. If I do a punk rock flea market, I've debated not buying stuff and returning it because like I wouldn't do it to a small local store.
Yeah, not a small store.
But like, if I do sponsorship, maybe they would want to sponsor via providing a backline.
Yeah, and they
instead of like a cash sponsorship. So, do you get sponsors for yours?
I've never had a sponsor. I do supporters. So.
Okay.
I feel weird about taking money from someone. Again, it's just the guilt thing. But there are, people that will offer to backline the stage for free, or, if you put their name on the poster or print a banner or something like that with their name on it. So I have supporters, but for the most part, my supporters are, there's an LGBT organization that I actually fundraise for. So they make money through me.
Sure.
There is some animal organizations that I'll give them a free booth, those kind of things. My buddy runs a horror convention called Spookala. It's in Tampa, and Ocala. He sponsors it, but his sponsorship is he just gives me a couple free tickets to Spookala, and I go there and hang out.
But it is, right? Like, I'm doing my first rally in the Valley in April to celebrate the record label's 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'm, finding sponsors, and some of them like Danger Room Recording Services.
Yeah.
Mix and masters 90% of my stuff. He's like, I'll just give you the equivalent of the sponsor price and free mixing and mastering.
There you go.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, man.
I was like, I'm perfectly happy to take a service. I have no problem with that. And it's the same thing. All I'm doing, I'm putting it on the banners, I'm putting it on the flyers, putting it in the social media posts. It's not too far different from your idea of supporters. I think we're parsing words here a little bit.
Yeah. I feel like there's probably some legality about taking money. Like, now that we're LLCs, like if I accept $500 from this organization, where does that go? And I'm instead of dealing with that, I'd rather just be like, how about you just loan it to me, or
Interesting.
Yeah. Because my wife runs a nonprofit organization for her art festivals, and she knows all this stuff, and I don't want to. So
no,
there's so much red tape that she's got to deal with. Yeah.
But I feel like if I don't do it officially, like I'm not going to send them an invoice. I'm not having them fill out a form.
Yeah.
It's literally just me reaching out to friends and going, hey, you're a record label like me, and I've sponsored your stuff. Can you sponsor my stuff? It's all just squishy back and forth.
Yeah.
So, this is so enlightening. So, like, what's going on with, like, the next one's coming up in March, right?
Yeah, March 30th.
Can you spill the beans on it?
Yeah. March 30th. That is the 10th Lakeland one. I know it's going to be our biggest one. Like I said, I think there's 77 vendors. There may be another one or two.
Okay.
But yeah, we rent out 2 roads now. We bring in a stage, a big PA system and everything. It's probably bigger than what you were.
You're practically a festival at this point.
I know. And I don't want to be, but
But you are.
Yeah, it's at that point. I just feel like that crosses into like a bigger, like maybe I should be doing something more right than I currently do. Everything I do is just, like an honor system handshake,
Nope, I understand. I do a lot like that with records. We
Yeah.
records. I didn't have you sign anything.
Yeah, there was nothing official.
We just understood that like we would take care of each other.
A part of me thought that whole time during the process with you that like this is just going to backfire. He's not going to do it. But then like, I started seeing, well, this band got it. Cool. Those turned out cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe it'll work. And then it did. And it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've had a couple bands decide they don't want to do it, which is totally fine with me.
Doesn't
after I
make
record.
Sense. Yeah.
And I tell them like you can have the recordings and do with them what you want. If you don't want to put a record out with me, just note that I recorded them.
Yeah.
Or I'll just delete them forever. I think the only time I've ever gotten irritated is when a band says they want to do it, I pay to mix and master it, and then after that they back out.
Yeah. That sucks.
But why are you backing out? I was like, we decided we wanted to do a studio album instead. They asked me to wait a couple months to put it out, and then they said, we did go to the studio. We spent all of our money on that, so we can't be part of this anymore. I'm like, but you asked me to do this. Like, you asked me to record you.
Yeah.
Like, you literally came to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No, I mean, we wouldn't have changed anything on ours. I wish that when we recorded with you, I guess recording is the wrong word, but when we played that show with
We're the
you,
live show.
yeah, I wish that would have played better. Like maybe not
But
speed the
that's
song up
okay.
so much.
But only you hear that, right?
Oh yeah, I hear it every time. I'm like, that's
You
too
hear it
fast,
every time.
Chad.
But I even hear that on studio stuff because even when I go to the studio, my money's always been so limited. I was like, oh, that's just going to have to do.
Yeah.
I don't have time to redo those drum tracks. That is not the fill I wanted to do there. It's not the one that I have practiced or like, I was like, but you know what? It's the fill that's going to be on the record because I am not redoing the rest of the fucking song
Yeah.
just so I can like hit the snare instead of the floor tom like I meant to do on that one fill. I was like, no, it's just going to be what it's going to be. It's done. It's done. It's done. So now that you're like, I'm like, I've started a thing where I've like been recording festivals. So like I recorded at Camp Pennsylvania. I was just down for Florida Underground Fest. Maybe we should talk about doing a Lakeland Flea Market compilation. Maybe I'll fly down, be a vendor, and record at the same time.
It's been discussed in my head to me, so I have conversations with myself. Could this work? Yes, it could. I would like the idea. Then I'm also guilty. Like, well, now Scott's having to fly, and now he's having to spend money on this. So. But I mean, I know.
And it's hard, right? Because the things that we do are not inherently money makers.
Yeah.
And the only way I could really make money off of it is if I made other people foot more of the bill than they could probably handle.
Yeah.
And I try really, really hard to not do that. And, it's like you want to have it, this equitable, like, flea market. I want to put up records by even small bands that don't tour just because I like their music. I don't want to be like, oh, you've got to do this, and then you've got to go on tour, and you've got to buy 300 records, and like that's just doesn't fit my vision of what I want to do.
Yeah.
Just like you have an equitable vision, but like it's hard to be equitable and not lose your shirt.
Yeah, well, I keep telling this to my wife too. Like, babe, I would do this for a loss.
Yes.
I don't need to profit from this. I booked shows for 20 years and never made any money. I think the only thing I ever got was like a microphone out of it.
Consistently losing money. So
Yeah.
like the show last night, I was probably down a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it, like there was a band from Philly I really loved called Trash Boy. If I wanted to go see them in Philly, I'd have to drive 3 or 4 hours, probably spend the night because I can't drive home after the show.
Yeah.
So I got to spend a hotel room, and then I got to drive back. So gas, hotel, beers at the show, yada, yada. I was like, I'll be out $200 or $300. So if I bring them up here, though, and I get to like only go 10 minutes from home, and then I help out some other bands,
Yeah.
and we have a good time, and I meet bands I might want to work with later, I was like, and I advertise my label by promoting the show. I don't see this as a negative.
Yeah, and you did so much for us on that show too. I mean, you hired an artist for the poster. That was my guys. Yeah, it was just like there was so much that I was impressed with. So,
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I try really hard to make each event special, which is why I try not to do too many in a row because I can't.
Yeah,
my bandwidth gets really tiring.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing 2 shows this week. And technically a third that's a benefit for Punk Island, but there's 2 other promoters on that.
Yeah.
So they just asked me on to help out. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I had a buddy of mine ask me to do another show for him on Friday. And I was like, oh no. I was like, I'm going to put you in contact with someone who's going to help you. I love you. And I've loved you for 20 years. But I wouldn't have the bandwidth to do a good show for you. I will be at your show, but I cannot promote 4 shows in 1 week.
I'm still with you. I'm just walking to grab a phone cable.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
I thought my phone was charged, but apparently this is not enough.
This has happened before. You are not the first person.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest, what are the biggest highs and the biggest lows of doing this?
I mean, I'm tired afterwards. I'm dead.
I'm sure you are.
But like I'm a people person, so I get energy from doing these kind of events. No one else I know does. So, I'll spend all my time making sure the event's going to go well, and it'll be physically draining, but I'm like re-energized from it versus my wife or my bass player or anyone else that's involved with it. They're dead afterwards. Like they don't want to leave the house the next day. I 100%. I'm like, okay, let's go out to eat. Let's go do something.
If I didn't have all those errands to run, I would have been in Kingston today hanging up posters from my next show in March. I have them ready. I'm probably going to go tomorrow. So I'm like, all right, Sunday matinee done. Next Sunday matinee, 1 month away. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest part for me is I do all the graphic design. I do almost all the graphic design for all of my online stuff. And that will take, because I do what I call a vendor spotlight for every single vendor. And that basically means for a show guy, you're a show guy. I make a poster for every single vendor and band or supporter, sponsor, whatever. So I make one for all 70, sometimes 90 different people that are involved. So I will spend, like, I've been working on them for the last 2 weeks and I'm only at like 46 and I've got 84 to make for this one. So
wow. So
that's
like,
training.
do they send you like a photo or an image and then you do one of those frames like they do like the Fast or
Yeah.
Punk Island where there's a frame around it?
Yes.
And then you design all that, or do you pull photos because you don't trust them to send you good ones?
Both. They send me bad photos and then I go, yeah. So they'll send me bad photos and I'll crop them and relighten them. And, I end up going to their social media page and finding other photos. This is backfired a couple of times because I've had some bands send me photos that were not very good. So I've gone to their page and grabbed a photo and then they message me and they're like, hey, that guy's not in the band anymore. Take that photo down. Like, oh, well, you take it down first. So I got to restore page.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, that is definitely an inherent concern. Like the band that I just had up here on Sunday, I was talking to their bass player and I was talking about their voice and they're like, oh, that's not me. That was the old drummer actually that was singing that song you're talking about. I was like, oh.
Him too.
Well, what do I know?
Yeah.
So like, that's a lot of work and you write the copy too, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming just like, is it Instagram and Facebook or do you focus just on Instagram?
Instagram is better than Facebook, but I use both. So for the event promotion side, you have to go through Facebook Meta, which is their link,
I use that.
business suite, and that can promote to both. You can track numbers on Facebook better. Yep. So like for the event page, I can see that, 6,000 people say they're going to come.
Sure.
So those are measurable numbers versus Instagram. It's just like, 2,000 people liked it. I don't know what that.
Yeah. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
They could be like in like Alaska for all you know.
Yeah. But in regards to like me finding vendors or just maintaining relationships with people, Instagram is way better, but Facebook is measurable.
I find my problem with Instagram is that like, it's not very easy to organize and search through past messages and find them.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like I've started using a very specific, name for all my group chats with the bands for shows.
Yeah.
So and I have like a format, so it's like easy for me to go find that group chat again if it gets buried underneath. And I do try flagging stuff, but it's like, for someone who worked in offices for years and they're like Microsoft Outlook and I can flag things for reminders and have it pop up. I'm like, oh, I have none of that functionality, and this is how it is. Like this, I'm on Instagram because 90% of my communication with bands is on Instagram.
Yeah, and I feel like that's probably a benefit from having OCD. I am really good about organizing and maintaining that kind of stuff, but that doesn't mean that like that mentally drains me.
Yes. I think that's the part that gets to me the most.
Yeah, every now and then like one of them will fall through the cracks and because I'm not pleasing that person, I feel heartbroken.
Yeah. Nope, I get it. Now that like, you have do you save like a set form that you send out to bands or a message? Like I know when I'm sending it out for a show, I have a Google Doc and it has the thing and I'm like, this is what I'm sending out to you. It explains everything, minor variations because of the show or the start time, and I just plug it in. I even save all my hashtags on a Google Doc sheet called hashtags.
Yeah. And
I have like them grouped into different things so like I don't have to retype the hashtag every time I do an Instagram message.
You do it way better than me. However, and I can say this from experience of working with you, that document that you send is overwhelming. Like it's
sorry.
It was like 5 pages, man. We were scared to death of like, are we missing something? Are we doing this right? I mean, it made sense. It totally made sense. It was just
I pared it down a bit.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I have all of that stuff kind of like saved, and every time I just use whatever I did on the last one and change the address, change the date, and yeah.
It just makes sense to try and keep it as organized as possible to not have to repeat work if you can help it.
Yeah. Well, I think, and this is kind of I guess we could go off from here. So a couple years ago, a friend of mine, actually, he was one of my vendors. His name's Aaron, had called me up while I was on vacation at the time. And he was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a punk rock flea market up here in Fort Pierce.
Okay.
Do you have a few minutes to talk? And I was like, yeah. So, and I don't want to take any credit for what he does is incredible, and it's similar but different. But
yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It was a great one.
Yeah. But like I loved it. Like he reached out to me, he wanted my advice, and I was just like, I don't want there to ever be a turf war. If you do it good and I do it good, then we make everyone else's good. I just want to make the Central Florida scene better. So when someone else says they want to do a punk rock flea market or a similar event, I'm like, feel free to reach out to me. Let's talk. I'll tell you all of my secrets. None of them are secret, but I want yours to do well and I want to be a part of it. I just want it to succeed. But I know some people get real turfy and they don't want
Yeah.
stepping on their stuff. And I'm not that.
I'm a big believer in like rising
Yeah.
tides, like lift all boats. Like if someone else started doing shows at the same venue I'm doing shows at, I wouldn't say that as a negative. I would think it was like great. More people making people think of this show at this venue as the place to go to see like hardcore punk, ska, and metal. Yes, let's do it. More.
Yeah, and good competition is good. If his was better than mine, or that, then that's
I can learn from you.
harder.
So, it's like you mentioned, like I'm constantly learning and adjusting. I have, like we mentioned, I have flyers made. I now go to like 2 or 3 different people because I've done enough stuff that like I can't keep going back to the same person because they have other things to do and I don't want to keep putting it upon them. And they're such nice people that they don't charge me much. It's usually like $30. Sometimes the most expensive one is like $50.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not their full-time job. They're all like people who just love punk rock and offer to do flyers and I'm like, I love this, but I just asked you to do a flyer last month and I don't want to bother you again for another one within 2 weeks.
Yeah. For me, like I still do print posters. So paper posters and I hang them up, but there's less and less places you can hang up posters nowadays. And then now because my event's gotten so popular, people collect them. So they'll take them down.
I've had that happen too. So I do 18 by 24s. I do 11 by 8s. I don't know if you've seen my Instagram. I'm always going out like flyering everywhere. And the 18 by 24 is like, even in the venue, they'll get ripped down. And the first time I went that far, I spent a couple $100 and I was like, motherfucker, like that cost me a lot of money. And then Adam from Say 10 Records sent me this website called Bizay, Bizay.
Yeah.
And I can order 25 posters for like $30. And you just have to wait 2 weeks to get them.
Yeah.
So you've got to like really have like in your head, I need this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. And then I resold them at the show last night, like the ones I didn't hang up for like $5 a piece.
Yeah. I usually print anywhere from like 40 to 50 11 by 17 posters. And there's only like 15 places in town you can hang them up. So what I do is I hang up 2.
Yep.
That way, if you want to take it, but leave the other one, like it's still up.
It's still up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things like, and then like, up here we have weather. I mean, you have rain and stuff, but like, I'm like, did that get torn down or did that just come down because we have nothing but snow and rain for the last week?
Yeah.
And it just destroyed the flyer. And I gotta go
back in the day, it would just poster over poster over poster.
Yep.
So everyone's bulletin board was like an inch thick.
Yep. There were a couple like that, and my wife really hates that.
Yeah.
So for her, when I'm going around, like particularly in New Paltz, they have the telephone poles, and I'm like stapling it up. I try really, really hard. I have my hoodie, and I'll rip down old ones that are out of date. Only out of date. I never rip down good ones.
Yeah.
And I shove them in my like hoodie pockets, like in this garbage can, and I try and like clean it up a little bit because I know it bothers her.
Yeah.
So out of like love for her.
Yeah.
And I never staple over anything that's like still active.
Yeah.
Like I hate it when people do that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to share about you? You mentioned you have staff. Now that you're an LLC, do you have to like send them paychecks? If you don't want to, we can cut this part out if you don't want to share this part.
So I do have staff is a weird word. I have a couple people that I pay and it's not a check. Yeah. I've never paid anyone a check. I've given a charity a check, but no, I just send it to them through like Venmo or Cash App or something like that. But I do have it all on record.
Okay.
My tax guy is the guitarist in Human Error, which is a really good punk band out of St. Pete. But I've asked him, what do I need to do? And so I just follow his steps. I mean, none of them make enough money for it to really have any impact. But
no, and I get that. And like, I mean, I feel like if the IRS came after you and I for losing money on these small things, like, I mean, they're about to lay off 15,000 workers anyway.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to have time to come after us.
Yeah. Elon Musk is going to come after us before they will.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was like, that whole thing is just driving me nuts. Like, I was besides being a social studies teacher, I was a DEI facilitator in Florida.
Yeah.
Of all places. So like, my
You're
PhD
part of the
is how to like teach marginalized history. So it's like, all I am is basically like their number one fucking enemy.
Yeah.
Like they hate me.
Yeah. That's a whole nother subject right there.
Oh yeah, we don't need to get into that, but like, yeah, it's and even up here though, like you mentioned that you want vendors that are like LGBTQ friendly, right?
Yeah.
I had to like make a post about how like the values of DCPC because I've run into things where a singular member of a band on their personal messages are like, oh, this person is not someone who represents the values that I want to give a stage to.
Yeah, and I keep that in mind too, like because we're down here in Central Florida, and there's a lot of Trump people around,
Yep.
and they know that punk rock generally does not like Trump, and it shouldn't. Let's just be honest, it shouldn't.
Let's just be honest, it should not.
But there are some vendors that have a certain conservative mind. And I have told one, do not wear your MAGA hat. I don't want to protect you from getting jumped at my event. Not that would ever happen, but he doesn't come back anymore. There have been like 2 other vendors that I'm just like, I'm never inviting you back because of some of the posts that you made.
Yeah.
But I try to not have politics be a part of it.
But it's like, but if a certain thing that goes beyond, like, it's no longer like discussing energy policy, right? We're not discussing the benefits of a flat tax.
Yeah.
We're discussing the value of human dignity and things like that. To me, go beyond a level that I'm willing to compromise on. This is not me like going, okay, we have different points of views. I'm like, no, you consider certain people to be mentally ill or not fully human, and as such, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
So yeah, I've had to cross that path with a few vendors, and I'm talking like 2, but it's a weird conversation to get to. And I think I always end it with like, I think it'd be best if you just go to a different market.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. Nobody wants to go where they're not inherently welcome, but like, you want to have a welcoming place.
Yeah.
And you want people to feel welcome. And this is where it's like, oh, well, why can't I be welcome with my MAGA hat? It's like, well, because your MAGA hat represents unwelcomeness.
Mm-hmm.
It just does. And if you don't see that, then that's an inherent problem in your understanding of the world, or the dichotomy of how you and I see it.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is like a running joke. The scarier a guy looks, the nicer or more teddy bear like they are. Like you find like a black metal, long hair, they're generally super, super nice. And the punk rock is not as extreme as that, but we're definitely in that spectrum. So for the most part, the people that come to these events are super cool guys. It's really more of like, if he's got a tucked in shirt and boots on, you probably aren't comfortable here.
Yep. And that's like, it's great. Like we, Colin Dead did this show in Orlando, and my principal at my school came out and brought her like 18-year-old son. And he wound up talking to my singer, Jay, our first singer.
Yeah.
And Jay, he's covered neck all the way down, tips of his fingers, like covered in tattoos. And they chatted for a while, and I asked my principal, I said, what'd your son think of the show? He's like, well, thought I had a lot of energy. Not really his thing, but he was most impressed with Jay. He's like, Mom, I would never walk up and talk to a guy that looked like that.
Yeah.
But he was so kind and so considerate and like just the nicest person ever.
Yeah.
And she's like, I think that was more important than anything else that happened at the show, is that he hung out with your singer and just realized that, like, as scary as your singer looked in the world with the facial piercings and tattoos everywhere, he was just a really nice guy. I was like, oh, Jay's a doll.
I've had that happen so many times. Like, number one, when I was a kid, I used to make fun of juggalos, and I
get that.
I thought it was so stupid. But as I've gotten older, I still don't like the music. But every juggalo that I've gotten to know has been like
so nice,
the nicest person. And I'm like,
as long as you're not a Nazi.
Doesn't make sense, but it's awesome. But on the other end of the spectrum, I used to be in the Christian scene. So I played drums at churches and all the stuff way back in the day, because you couldn't do it anywhere else. But I made a lot of friends there. And one of the bands that played on one of the previous punk rock flea markets, I met through that church scene.
Okay.
Like, the singer was a worship leader and the guitarist was in the worship band and everything. Anyway, they came to me and they were like, dude, so this is crazy. We want to play your punk rock flea market. We're in a pop punk band. And I was like, well, it's not really that conservative. And he's like, don't worry, we're not in the same boat that we once were, because one of them had said, I've got a member of my family that's now come out, and our church is no longer accepting, and our old communities are no longer accepting. And he's like, as we started to step back and realize that we were not accepted in the community that we were, a lifelong member of, and then we started to realize that the punk rock community was becoming more acceptable, like, they've totally changed. And they're like,
sure.
So it's cool to see like punk rock has benefited even that section.
You know the band 90 Pound Lewis?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm putting out their record, and I've been talking with Jeff, and, they were on Tooth and Nail. They were, I guess they would have been considered a, like, Christian hardcore punk band or whatever back in the day.
For there.
Yeah, and now, Jeff, like, they played Furnace Fest, and he has a song, like, they changed the titles onto Breaking DeSantis, and, they're playing a show in May with middle-aged queers. Like, they've gone the whole opposite route, and like, Jeff, the lead singer, has, like, made it very vocally clear that, like, even if there are members that, maintain their faith, their faith no longer is that level of criticism and closed-mindedness towards other people. So I was like, it does happen, and I think you like pay punk rock for some of that happening.
Yeah, I totally think that it's awesome to know that so many of my former church friends are now kind of like stepping into our world a little bit and realizing it's more loving and accepting.
Yeah, I mean, even the old bass player in Colin Dead, I mean, the bass player Mike, like he was brought up in a super Christian fundamentalist household.
Yeah.
So all he listened to was Christian music growing up, even Christian punk rock. So like that's all he knew, but that allowed him to have access eventually to non-Christian punk rock.
Yeah, which it's funny because back in the day, Christian punk rock was just like the Walmart brand of everything. So like, oh, if you like this band, then you'll like MXPX, or if you like this band, then you'll like this. And then at some point, they all dropped that Christian moniker, and they're actually pretty solid bands now.
Yeah, well, I remember I did a show for a Christian pop punk band called Last Tuesday in Baltimore.
I did too, from Virginia.
Yeah, super nice guys.
Yep.
Super nice, and other than like the Christian fish tattoo on the forearm,
yeah,
I wouldn't have known they were Christian. Their lyrics are vague enough that it could be anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, I don't... As long as you are open-minded to the broader community that I love and support, then I don't care what you think about how the world was created, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
It's fine. Whatever. That doesn't matter to me.
I think I booked them around 2005, 2006.
Yeah, I would have been around the same time.
Yeah. Probably the same run of shows.
Probably. And I really dug them. I think they're actually from Pennsylvania, but...
Yeah. Not Florida.
Yeah. Not Florida, definitely not Florida. So, because like if they were Virginia, they would have almost been like a local band for me. So, man, they were great. They were great. But like, so what are you have any new bands coming up that are playing this flea market that you haven't seen before that you're super stoked to see?
Okay, well, Jesus. So much in my mind. Let's see, who am I?
Yeah.
You Vandal out of Gainesville is playing.
Yep, I've seen them plenty of times. Very good band.
Yeah, they are super awesome. Oh my God, you threw me off here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My buddy's Low Season from St. Peter coming up. We've done a couple comps with them. I don't know if they did a show with you or not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, they're good. There's a lot, man, because I've already booked the Bradenton one as well, which is happening in April. So I've got those bands up here. I'm working on another event that I'm planning. So there's so much in my head that I'm not prepared to answer that question.
Fair enough.
But
have you ever considered hiring yourself out as a event planner for punk rock flea markets around the country?
No.
What about if we're a good friend that said, hey, I'll pay you if you help me do this?
I mean, if you're a friend, I'd probably just do it for free.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to fly up there.
No, I would never want you to fly. I mean, I would love to have you fly up here.
I would love to. I just, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd fly you up here. Because no. All right, man. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your day. I know you got off of work and just jumped right on this podcast. And I got to tell you, like, having been in your flea markets and knowing myself how hard it is to run shows, you make everything seem seamless and effortless. And you provide a place that I think is really special and important to both, like, fans, bands, and vendors, and I can't thank you enough for what you do, and thank you enough for being on this and talking to me and everyone else who's listening or watching about all the dope shit you do. So thank you, sir.
Dude, I mean, right back at you. There's so much that DCPC has blown me away with what you've accomplished just with my shitty little punk band. You put me on vinyl. I've never been on vinyl before, so that was a check off of a dream list that I thought wouldn't happen. So thank you. And honestly, my favorite shirt it's funny, you were texting me the other day about this interview. Yeah. And I'm sitting up in Orlando across the street from Will's and old Uncle Lou's, and I'm wearing your goddamn shirt, and you're asking me questions about the punk rock flea market, saying, hey, let's talk about this. I'm like, okay. Snap a picture of myself. I'm like, I'm sitting right here, dude. Like,
I was like, I love that though. Yeah. I'm like, thank you. That meant a lot to me.
Yeah, I wear that shirt all the time. It's in the dirty clothes right now because I was wearing it again yesterday. So
yeah, 2 days in a row.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're in that same boat, man. I don't like to attach my name or my face to what I do with the punk rock flea market. I kind of like to keep it in the background because I am a drummer by trade, and we're always in the background. So I feel
I was not meant to be a drummer.
Yeah, I feel well. I've been a vocalist and a drummer, guitarist and everything, but I feel weird like accepting compliments or ever being the face.
You should take it because what you've done and what you're doing it's really phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you.
And to do it the way you're doing it.
Yeah.
With the kindness and the equity and the fairness towards others. Like, you should, Ian McKay would be proud of you.
I can say I saw Ian MacKaye, not with Minor Threat, but with Fugazi on one of their final tours. They played. I lived in Arkansas. I saw them play at Hendrix College, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen.
They're phenomenal. I've seen them several times.
Yeah.
I've listened to their podcast, Fugazi to Fuga-A. No, Fuga. It goes through every song, Fuga-A to Z.
Yeah.
It's really a great podcast. I go to their website and they have all their live shows there. You can listen to them.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite places to go to and just listen to music.
Are they able to put out those releases of those recordings?
I mean, I think they could, but I think they're just literally there on the website instead. Like they're not, it's Fugazi.
Yeah.
They're not out there trying to make a buck on anything.
Yeah.
Right. They're just.
Yeah. I mean, he's my true north. So like everything that I do in punk rock or really in general, I kind of like, what would Ian MacKaye do? And then my true south would be, what would my piece of shit dad do? So like,
I get it. And that's the only thing that makes me feel guilty, because I would love to do all ages shows. Like I'm always talking about how there's no, I'm doing shows at a bar.
Yeah.
It doesn't have food. It has to be 21 and up.
Yeah.
But I am doing an all ages show this Thursday coming up. So I try and do all ages, but the amount of venues that are available that I can do it, it's not as consistent. Like growing up in DC where everything was all ages, it kills me to not have it. But I don't know. It's like it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Right? I don't want to not do stuff just because I can't do it perfectly.
Well,
I don't want the perfect be the enemy of the good.
And I don't know how the breweries that I do these events at, I don't know how that they're able to make them all ages, but all of my Punk Fleas are all ages.
I mean, I think breweries tend to be an all ages space anyway because they have food.
Yeah.
And so they're almost more like a restaurant.
Yeah. I don't know, but I love that. I mean, it's kind of a dream come true that I'm able to do shows at this level, all ages. Success.
And I think if I keep searching around, eventually I'll figure it out. I've only been here 2 years.
Yeah.
So it takes time to get a feel for the land.
Yeah. It starts small. You start really small and do it really good small.
Yep. And just incrementally grow.
Yeah. I don't make it to where it's all about the shows or it's all about the market or it's all about, I try to make it to where it's evenly like it is a punk show, but it's also this market. And even though you're the punk guy, but your wife is also going to have a good time, or kids.
Your kids are going to have a good time. Yep. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. Is there a song I can play at the end? I can play a Kutoff song if you'd like.
Fuck that.
If you want to send me one, or do you have a punk rock flea market theme song?
I do have a punk rock flea market theme song, but it's on all of our old promo stuff. So the last time the Kutoffs recorded, I was like, hey, let's track another song. And that's what it is. So
okay. You want to use that one, or you can send me another one? You send me whatever you want. I'll cue it up and send me an image you want me to use, whether it's an image of your band or the punk rock flea market. And anyone that's watching on YouTube will see the image and hear your rad ass song.
Sure. I'll send it to you. I got 2 songs, actually, I can send you.
Send me 2 fucking songs. We'll do 2. I'll just tell people, hey, everyone listening, just say I listened to 2 fucking songs instead of 1 outro song. We're going to have 2.
Yeah. All right. I'll email them to you.
Rad. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great night, a great day, whatever it is you're doing. Thank you, Chad, again. And I hope that you come back and listen and watch again more in the future. And I'm going to go ahead and hit stop and edit that part out in the last second. There we go. Done.
Yeah.